In the practice of Vedic meditation, we use a mantra, a short, resonant sound that has no meaning. And we use it in a way that's sort of like a diving board, an orienting device, something that enables an experience in consciousness. We think it and we let go of it. But a lot of questions I get sometimes from people who have an established meditation practice, especially a Buddhist practice or mindfulness, is why a mantra? In fact, sometimes the question gets asked more pointedly, why not the breath? What's wrong with the breath? And there's nothing wrong with the breath. The breath is a beautiful tool for meditation. But the reason we use a mantra is because the sound of the mantra is able to engage the mind at a more fundamental level. And again, people say, what's more fundamental than the breath, than the life force, prana, with which we breathe in and breathe out? And sound is actually more fundamental. Our first experiences in the womb are of sound. Babies in utero can hear and are influenced by the sounds they hear through their mother's womb. They hear the sounds of laughter, of music, of their mother's voice, or in more dire situations, maybe of gunfire or yelling or screaming. And sound is makes our first impression. Also, what's interesting, at least it's interesting to me, is that our senses themselves are arranged in a hierarchy, and sound is the subtlest sense. My brother's an anesthesiologist, and his job is to strip you of your sensory awareness without killing you. That's essentially what they do. And luckily for an anesthesiologist, your sense of pain is on top. Touch is the grossest level of sense, a very fine sense. I wouldn't want to be without it, but it's on top of the hierarchy. And so when they take away your sense of touch, they take away your sense of pain. But they also don't want you smelling stuff or tasting the fluids in your mouth or anesthesia or something. So they take you deeper in consciousness so that you lose your sense of taste and your sense of smell. They also don't want you looking up and seeing your leg at some weird angle or a hunk of your liver on the table. And so they also take you deep enough in consciousness to take away your sense of sight. But what no anesthesiologist will do is take you beyond the threshold of hearing, because that gets really close to killing you. And it's why surgical teams are told, the patient can't hear you, so be careful what you say. And enough surgical teams have forgotten this and come out and been embarrassed by the patient saying, hey, I heard you were just talking about the football team or my body, or what's up with that, man? And so that's the hierarchy of the senses. And so when we meditate with a sound, and really not even the sound, because we think the mantra. So we're meditating with a subtler idea of that sound. It's what allows the mind to be drawn inward to its own quieter and subtler and deeper and more fertile layers of consciousness. And frankly, we can allow ourselves to settle more deeply than the level at which we focus on the breath or time breaths or contemplate and consider compassion or visualize and follow along with a guided meditation. We can settle more deeply, more profoundly into that place of pure stillness and silence and pure being. And that's why we use a mantra.